Hey there folks, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the breaking news from the WRC, which is that Elfyn Evans will be out of the M Sport lineup for Rally Finland due to an injury sustained on a hard landing in Rally Estonia, the promotional event that took place last weekend. His replacement will be Greensmith, who made his first outing for M Sport, his first outing in a World Rally car back in Portugal. Now what I want to talk about in this video, and I'm going to try and keep it brief, is, well, the kind of ramifications this has for the WRC as well as for WRC2, and in a wider kind of context for the driver market, because it will be interesting. So firstly, let's talk about the top flight. Now there are a lot of one-off entries coming into Finland already. You've got Hayden Paddon in the Ford Fiesta already with M Sport. You've got the Yan Pro racing car making a return, showing that we will be having privateers. You've got Craig Breen in the Hyundai, and that's already quite fascinating to see that number of people coming up. Of course, we will have later outings in Germany where we expect Elfyn Evans to return, but Takamoto Katsuta, who will also make an appearance in Rally Spain. Now, this is quite interesting because this means that you've got so many different drivers who are vying for a place in the 2020 slots. And whilst M Sport basically kept their drivers on, there might be rumours that Tanak is coming back to M Sport. But, however, it seems like Greensmith is very much on their radar, he's very much on their periphery, and if they want a third driver, he seems to be there. It's interesting, however, to make note of the fact that Pontus Tiedemann hasn't been called up as of yet. Though, I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, Greensmith deserves this. He definitely does. I was thinking it would come in World Rally GB, because it would be a home rally, and it's the home rally for M Sport. But it's nice to see him getting out in Finland. I hope that he gets a solid drive, because we saw it in Portugal. He has potential. He made one mistake on the Saturday, which bumped him down to Super Rally, and he would have still gotten a good finish, but he had that unfortunate landing in the final stage, going into the final corner in FAF, over the final jump, over the big jump, and it ended his rally. It wasn't even really, you can't really say it's his fault, because it was a mechanical failure. But nevertheless, it will make the driver market interesting. But for the time being, let's talk about WRC2. So Gus Greensmith, as I've mentioned, was already going to be there. He was going to be there for the Ford Fiesta R5 Mark II, because M Sport have brought two cars there, or they will be bringing two cars there. They have two entries there. One of them was going to be Greensmith, who's now been promoted to the top flight, and the other one is Eric Kamali. Now, Eric Kamali is a very interesting driver to talk about. Former M Sport factory driver, then left the team to help develop with Volkswagen Motorsport, the Polo R5, made the debut for that car in the Rally de Catalunya last season alongside Peter Solberg, and now seems to be back with the M Sport fold. So who's going to go into the second car? Now, I've already said Pontus Tiedemann. That would be interesting to see. Pontus definitely deserves top flight drivers. Well, this is the problem the WRC has, though. On top of that, you could potentially suggest Valtteri Bottas, but then he'd have to negotiate a way to get out of the F1 commitments he has, because we're talking about the same time as the double header between Hockenheim and Hungary, and the F1 was enforced on the same weekend as an F1 race weekend. So, who could it be? Now, Tiedemann would be a good option. Be a good option to be able to have a reliable driver in the car to score some valuable points. But there's one other person who I'd like to throw into the ring, and I don't think Rich Milner or Malcolm Wilson will watch this, and if they even did, they probably wouldn't be considering this because they probably would have already made a decision. And I hope it would be this person, Lucas Piniauchak. Now, Piniauchak made some appearances in WRC2 Pro. The only problem was a lack of funding, so has had to abort the campaign for this year. M Sport have got this entry now. They've got this one entry, and I think feasibly they can find someone to replace it, because Greensmith was able to replace Elfyn Evans. Now, it would have to be a valid driver, it would have to be somebody with some kind of connection to the team. And really, there aren't too many drivers on the periphery which aren't currently engaged in contracts. So, for example, Mads Osberg is currently engaged with a contract with Citroën for the C3. So it would have to be somebody who is quite familiar with Fiesta. It would have to be somebody who's quite familiar with competing in R5 machinery or equivalent, and definitely been up to date with racing. So for me, personally, if they want to keep the two cars, I feel like they're left with two options. One of them is Pontus, because, well, if you're not going to put him in the top flight, you should have him in the team anyway. And the other one is Pinialchak, because that would be brilliant at providing support to another up-and-coming driver. Because remember, Pontus is still an established driver, even though he hasn't got a rally win and hasn't really negotiated many full-time programs, especially for a full calendar in a WRC, in a top flight. You have to say that Pinialchak is an up-and-coming star. You have to think, okay, what could happen next? And then, of course, we have the effects as well for 2020, because Greensmith might put himself into a running for a seat. And with Breen and Patton already doing one-offs to try and secure a drive, and you have Osberg on the periphery and potentially Eric Camely on the periphery, he will definitely shape things up to be a very interesting silly season that is starting about now. And the amount of drivers that are out there are getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Honestly, I'd like to see M Sports bring back a third car. And if they can, make it kind of more funding based. So when they had Brion Bouffier, that was a good kind of move to make. Same with Pontus. Same if you put Greensmith in there as well. And you could do the same thing as well with Eric Camely. That's just something I'm throwing out there. Again, I'll ask a question I asked at the end of the Craig Greenhead Pattern videos. What would have happened if Volkswagen stayed into 2017 and we had potentially 15 top flight cars? We will never know. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for joining me. If you want to get involved in any kind of discussion, do that down below. I'll also leave a couple of links in the descriptions for previous videos, the ones on, say, Patton and Breen. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.